All right, so last night, or at least last night my time, I left a message on Facebook that was a sarcastic joke saying, "Remind me not to, make a spicy knock knock joke in Scotland," and and that is in response to a trial that has been going on for the better part of 2 years, that has been followed rather closely by by free speech advocates and the like, and people who are worried about the future of comedy, people who believe that political correctness goes or has been going way too goddamn far. This is the trial of Marcus Meechan, known on YouTube as Count Dankula, and that is important to get the pronunciation right there. I've seen a few outlets get that or pronounce that quite incorrectly. But anyway, this is in response to a video that he posted in 2016 that is entirely a joke video, making his cute little pug Buddha do horrible things like Nazi salutes and respond like, the way pugs do with head tilts like that, when he'd say things like "gas the Jews" in that thick Scottish accent of his. And the whole thing was entirely a joke. It was entirely an effort stated by him to annoy his girlfriend and to make the thing as uncute, or make it the least cute thing that he could think of course, which is a Nazi. So the video goes viral, 8.8 million views, before it's taken down by YouTube for hate speech, because go figure. Then he finds himself getting arrested, taken to the local sheriff's court, and charged with a hate crime, essentially, under some Communications Act that was passed UK wide in about 2003. So an old leftover from the Blair days. Whoopty goddamn do. So the trial reached its zenith yesterday, or I can't even fathom the time zones anymore where I am right now. Excuse me. He was found guilty. And they didn't even have the basic fucking courtesy to even allow, no, not even to allow, to give him a sentencing right then and there. They're going to drag it on for another month until April 23rd is the date that I saw online. So he will learn his fate, whether he will go to jail for 2 months or a year, however long it is. And I am thoroughly and completely, utterly disgusted at this entire situation. The precedent that this is going to set is unfathomable. It really is unfathomable to me. And the whole issue is that he was grossly offensive. I mean, sure, maybe depending on your own subjective standard, but then again, the thing I have to ask is, now that this sets precedent in Scotland and potentially the whole of the United Kingdom, where exactly is this going to go? I mean, this whole case essentially hinged on one man, a sackless wonder by the name of Ephraim Borowski, and I don't even really care if I'm mispronouncing that name. He was the man, that the prosecution kept calling in, and he's the leader of a Jewish community group, one of the largest Jewish community groups in Scotland, who decided to take a special interest in this case because I guess he had nothing better to do other than, decry Nazism while adopting one of its one of its signature traits, which is the jailing, which is the calling for the jailing of things that you don't like. And that's really all that it boils down to. He didn't like it, therefore he must go to jail. And that really sickens me. I mean, yeah, sure. It is offensive to him. I'm pretty sure it would be, but let's not even begin to split hairs here. That's all that this is. He committed no physical crime. He committed no murder. He didn't beat someone until they flatlined and died. He didn't violate some poor young woman or man in the street while they were intoxicated. He didn't stab someone in the face. He didn't go and strong-arm the local liquor store or jewelry store or wherever. He didn't do any of that. He just made a video where his pug just sat there and watched Hitler videos for comedic effect. I mean, if we're really gonna dive deep into this, then I guess we might as well round up the remainers of Monty Python. I guess John Cleese should have to go to prison because of his little Faulty Towers skit. I guess that anyone who's worn a Nazi uniform as a joke should go to jail. I mean, should we go arrest Prince Harry? I mean, he wore one as a joke to a party. At least I'm sure it was a joke. But then again, even if it wasn't a joke, is that even a jailable offense? And I know for a fact that this standard is not even going to be evenly applied. There are going to be people that are going to be allowed to go and say whatever they want. There are going to be people who are going to be allowed to, if they're from a certain en vogue protected group, are going to be allowed to just go out and say the most horrendous things. They're just going to be allowed to advocate violence for things that violate their own ridiculous cultural standard, their own barbaric cultural standard. I guarantee you right now that there is some imam who's probably preaching such things right now in the United Kingdom, who's probably advocating for and explaining the virtues of beating a Muslim girl who dares to show a little bit of bare elbow. I'm very certain of that, given what I've seen floating around online. I'm pretty sure that you could even find them advocating for throat raping them to within an inch of their life. Of course, nothing's going to happen, and that's the problem. What exactly is offense? What exactly is offensive? The standards are not even anywhere. They're not anywhere close to even across the board. The problem is that some people are going to be offended. Some people are going to laugh. I mean, you have people like Ephraim who take tremendous offense and want to see people jailed. And I'm going to make no bones about this. He probably wanted him to be jailed if he's even involved in this case. I mean, it's one thing to maybe make him apologize, which I don't think he even should have, but he did anyway. It's another thing to want to throw someone in jail. But then you have people like Mel Brooks who made The Producers. I mean, go sit down and watch the movie or watch any clips from the Broadway show. I saw that show in London when I was on a People to People trip. I mean, for Christ's sake, they do a song called Springtime for Hitler. Don't be a dummy, be a smarty. Come and join the Nazi party. I mean, what if someone found that offensive? Would they have to go round all them up? Would they have to go round all the actors up? I mean, where are we even going with this? It's just, I have a severe problem with hate speech laws because invariably they're not going to apply evenly. I mean, in a proper world, they would apply evenly. saying this race should die, this race is evil. If you're gonna at least do that, if you're gonna at least have these laws, then anything like that should have people locked up in jail. But looking around Europe, looking around the United Kingdom, it seems that that's not even the case. You know, I mean, people can walk around waving ISIS and Hezbollah flags. No problem. No problem. That's your right. You go and do that as you will. You know, make a joke video, off to the slammer. And we don't even know how long he's going to even be in there. It's gotten to the point of absolute absurdity, and I don't even care if I am being crude. That's my basic right, to be as crude as I want to be as an American. I mean, thank God that we have negative rights. Rights that are taken away from the government and given to us, not graciously granted by our overlords. I mean, I don't even want to hear the thing. I don't even want to hear an argument of cultural relativity on this one. The United Kingdom, Scotland, any such place is supposed to be a modern liberal democracy. And what should enshrine a modern liberal democracy is an ability to speak your mind, or to at least perform basic comedy. But then again, from what it seems, you won't be able, if you're of a certain persuasion, if you're of a certain group, you won't be able to get past, you won't even be able to get past a bagel joke without finding the inside of an iron bar. The inside of the iron pen. And I really do have to wonder where he's going to go. Are there supermax prisons in Scotland? Are there just basic, regular, low minimum security prisons? I really do have to wonder. If someone knows, please inform me, because I want to at least know where this man is going to wind up. It's concerning. I mean, yeah, sure, he's crude and offensive, but I don't think he's anywhere near harmful. It really is disconcerting. In the United States, at least from what I've seen, the only thing that would really happen to him is there might be some kind of campaign to get him fired from his job. And that's really the worst of it. I don't think he would not have been arrested. He would not have seen the inside of a courtroom. Or at least I would hope not. I mean, who knows what some county, what random county out of the thousands that we have would do it. Maybe there might be, but I would like to think that we wouldn't. Of course, if he would, the case would get thrown out faster, and you could say Jack Robinson. There was no crime here. The only crime here was thought crime. The only crime here was wrong think. The only crime here was that some incredibly thin-skinned man, a rice paper thin-skinned man, decided, I'm going to take the time out of my life to make sure that this man is thrown in prison. Argue with me the offensiveness in the material, but I do not think that you can call yourself a modern day liberal, at least someone who professes to believe in modern day democracy, and say, yeah, he should be in jail or even receive a fine. An apology is probably the most that should be expected of him. I don't even know what to think. It just turns my stomach just the way it is that speech gets quashed. You can't even make good comedy anymore. And to think, this is the country that gave us Faulty Towers, Blackadder, all sorts of other great things. I mean, at least I've heard of Blackadder. I heard it's a comedy. At least I heard I'm not getting that. Hope I'm not getting that wrong. Ah, well, screw it. You know, Mr. Bean is the UK used to be the gold standard of comedy. And they used to be the gold standard of just taking the piss. And that's all this is taking the piss. And for Christ's sake, a lot of the skits that I mentioned, like John Cleese's little goose stepping bit in Faulty Towers, was done, you know, when Holocaust survivors weren't dwindling away in number. It is an absolutely horrific event. But then again, are we not allowed to at least let our guard down and at least allow ourselves a little moment of terribly black humor? A black comedy? Are we not allowed that? I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, really. I mean, it's not as if he looked dead. It's not as if he looked dead in the camera, recited the 14 words, shouted 1488, and then declared his intention to reopen Auschwitz. He did no such thing. And I really do wonder how people like good old Ephraim and his little cabal are able to walk around without racking themselves on the nearest wall of the cognitive dissonance that they must that's going on here. You know, I would think that Jewish people would at least see the issue of just arbitrarily throwing people in prison for such mundane things. I mean, the Germans certainly made no bones about throwing people in jail that they disagreed with, or things that they found offensive. I do not believe that offensiveness should constitute a jailable offense. The only thing that offensiveness should do is maybe to stop people short a little bit in certain situations. That's it. The police should not be involved. The government should not be involved, because you're ultimately leading yourselves down a very dark path. And the last thing I guess I'm going to say is I'm not going to the UK anymore. I'm never going to visit it if this is the sort of standard that they're going to hold themselves to. A standard, you know, that they're not going to follow. You know, amongst the other things that are going on. You know, apparently there are dozens upon dozens of former ISIS fighters loose in the country across the UK. I guess that, you know, the police can take time away from finding them, or from finding drug lords, or from finding rapists, or from finding thieves, or cutthroats, or any other such people. I guess that they can take time out of that to go arrest a pudgy nerd for making something that someone deigned to find offensive. I'm not going to the UK. Specifically, I ain't going to Scotland. I've always wanted to visit Scotland, but unless things change, I ain't gonna spend the money to go over there. I'd rather get into a sword fight with Duncan MacLeod with my hands tied behind my back. I'd rather get liquid haggis poured down my throat while pouring peppers into my eyes and doing that. I'm dead serious. So, you know, like I said, thank God for the First Amendment, and thank God for any sort of decent amount of common sense. Just, good Lord. We are approaching critical mass, aren't we? And who even knows what the next step will be? Because really, if if the bar is set that incredibly low, then who knows who's going to get picked up next? Who knows who's going to get thrown in prison? That's it. God save Brittania.